Hey guys, I found another battery deal on Amazon that seemed too good to be true, so naturally I bought one. This is the 12 volt 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery from VEMDIA. The price at the time was just $87 before sales tax. The last time we saw a deal like this was the King Boss battery at $77, and that one appeared to be missing some cells. Let's run a quick capacity test, then we'll tear it apart and see what's inside. But first, it has a gigantic hole punched in the side here. The battery is loose and flopping around in the box. There is some tape across the top here that looks like it was actually opened and retaped shut. Okay, so there is a piece of foam on top there. There we go. It's in a plastic bag, and there is foam on the bottom. There's just no foam on the side. You can see where that giant hole was there. The primary reason I wanted to open this on camera was I was pretty sure I got somebody else's return, but it doesn't look like that. I'm feeling a lot better now that I've opened it here. I tested this battery at a 20 amp rate or 0.2 C on my American Reliance electronic load. We got nearly 103 amp hours, which quite honestly was better than I was expecting. Alright guys, so parts of this are looking very familiar. Not necessarily the BMS there, but what do I see down here? Is that the same blue cylindrical cells? Let's go ahead and get this battery pulled out of the case. This battery pack looks very similar to the King Boss. In fact, the battery pack itself is near identical. We have a different BMS on the top, and it's potted in some rubber stuff here in the bottom to hold it in place. But so here's a cell from the King Boss battery. It's HT. It is 15 amp hour, 48 watt hours. And here we have HT, 15 amp hours, 48 watt hours. It looks like the same cell with slightly different text printed on it. Now, one thing that concerns me about this particular cell here is, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but the heat shrink is a little bit lumpy. And typically that's an indicator of oxidation on the casing of the cylindrical cell. We'll certainly take a look at that, but first here's a look at the BMS on the top. It does say Dongguan Yijia Electronic Company there. It's not a particular BMS I've seen before. We got our balance leads coming off here, and it does appear to have a temperature sensor, which we can find affixed to the battery on the side. So before we take this apart too much further, let's test that temperature sensor and just see if this actually has low temperature charging protection. So here we are charging the battery at 1.65 amps. Going to spray the temperature sensor with some of this computer duster real quick. It has been 30 seconds and the battery is still charging, so let's try it once more. Okay, there, it actually shut down. It was about 40 seconds by the time I sprayed it a second time, so it does appear to actually work, and there it's turned on again. Let's check that one more time. And there it shut off again. So I guess this does have low temperature charge protection, which quite honestly is surprising given the price. This battery pack is built as we expected here. The cylindrical cells are in groups of 7 wired in parallel, and then each parallel group is wired in series to make the 12.8 volts. On the positive terminals there, we can see they actually use some insulative paper for protection. That is different from the King Boss where they had like a little some sort of plastic insulative disc. I kind of like the disc a little bit better, but both really accomplish the same goal. It's just to prevent this nickel strip from rubbing through the insulation and shorting out to the negative casing of the cell. We have our balance leads here. They are soldered to the nickel strip, I suppose. There's like a glob of solder, and then there's some silicone to hold it in place. That's not really the preferred approach there, but I suppose it gets the job done. Now this right here is the cell I was concerned about that I said had lumps under the insulation. And looking at the top, we can see there is some crusty stuff here, so I don't know if that is oxidation, rust of the steel coating, or if there's something else, some sort of substance was on that cell. Most of the other ones do look okay. I don't see that in any of the other cells necessarily. Something else that's interesting to note here is the cells all have a sticker on with what appears to be a date and a capacity. So this says July 7th of 2025, and this is 14,741 milliamp hours. So this 15 amp hour cell is testing at 14.7 amp hours. So right out of the factory, this cell's already testing at 2% below rated capacity. And they're all kind of like that. So here's another one, 14,723. So yeah, I really do have to wonder if these are used cells. Why else would you go through and test every single cell if it's a brand new cell like that? It just doesn't make sense. So let's go ahead and see if we can remove the heat shrink from the cell of question here. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but that definitely does not look like a new cell to me. It's either rust, oxidation of the steel casing, or some sort of liquid damage, but really it looks like rust to me. That is not a brand new cell. And what's that going to look like in 2, 3, 5, 8 years? I really don't know. But none of the other ones look as bad as this one did. This one's really questionable as well. I guess there's some up here too. And that one's not as bad, but it definitely has some on it. It's got a big blotch here, and there's some down under there. So yeah, there's really no telling how many of these cells have this sort of rust to them. Let's see if we can get a quick look at the BMS here. This is pretty much as basic as it gets. We have a thermal switch here for over temperature protection. We have our FETs, our transistors that turn the charge and discharge on and off. I don't see any shunting resistors for sensing current, so I'm skeptical as to whether or not this actually has current-based protections. There is what appears to be a diode over here. We do have a balancing circuit here, and I assume this is the control for the whole thing, but yeah, this is really as basic as it gets. I also noticed the manual that came with this battery is near identical to the manual that came with the King Boss battery. So the top is the King Boss. It says it's manufactured by Swale Technology Company. The bottom is the VEMDIA, and it says it's manufactured by Wind Power Technologies. Every other word in this manual is the same. Even the battery configuration, it says it should be Eve manufactured cells, and the same at the VEMDIA. It says Eve manufactured cells. These are definitely not Eve cells. These are junk. Yeah guys, I don't know if it's the same company producing both of these batteries, or perhaps there's one company that produces this battery pack as a whole, and then VEMDIA just slaps their own BMS on. I really don't know the logistics of how these are put together. Now, one thing I find particularly interesting as well is if you look up this brand VEMDIA on the new Battery Finder brand listing webpage, this company has 13 listings for 12 volt 100 amp hour batteries. Now 2 do appear to be the same, so that's 12 unique cases. The same size case, the same form factor. It's not like it's a mini version or something else. So that's definitely a red flag for me. The stickers with the battery testing that's below the original capacity, the rusted or corroded cells. I mean, there's just a lot of questionable things to me personally here. So I personally would not buy any more of these batteries. If you're looking for a budget deal, a 12 volt 100 amp hour battery, or even a 24 or a 48 volt battery, Zooms makes really good batteries, Lithium makes really good batteries. There's a couple other brands out there. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this battery. It is nice that we have all of the cells this time. We're not missing any, but I think we traded that off for some subpar cells here. So yeah, let me know what you think. Hit that like button before you go, and thanks for watching.